Education, a word that we all hear, we are all aware of. But what does it really mean? Well, to help unravel that answer, I'm very pleased to say I've got somebody called Paul Kelly from my hometown in Nottingham, and Paul is an educationalist of many years standing. He's a college lecturer. So, Paul, what matters most? What is education really for?
Education for me is to provide young people or even older people with the skills they need to succeed in life. We've all got in our college, we've got our maths and English students who come to pass an exam they haven't previously sat. But for me, it's a bigger thing. It's giving them the life skills that they need and making sure that when we're teaching maths and when we're teaching English, that we're giving it relevance. Because I come across daily students who go, but when am I ever going to need area? And I have to explain to them that when you get your first house and your partner wants you to buy carpets, she doesn't want a great big gap in the middle of the carpet. She wants it to look all nice. So
Mhm.
it's an important skill to have, being able to measure the area of a carpet, being able to buy enough paint. You don't want to move into your new house and go, actually, I don't like that yellow colour that the previous occupant has had. I'm going to paint it all white. And then you get to the final tin of paint and you realise you've still got 3/4 of a room to paint. So it's important, not just for passing exams, which I think lots of young people think that's the main be all and end all, but it's for life. I think
Mm.
education has to be something that gives you a skill that you can use in your life. I've questioned some of the topics that are on the math syllabus because I don't think they feel they're relevant. Why would somebody need to know how many times a wind turbine turns in 2.5 minutes? They're never going to be asked that in real life, but they get asked
Mm.
it on an exam paper. And
Is
it's
a better question or a better word, PK, learning? Because there is, as you've already alluded to, there's this kind of association with the word education. It invokes fear, dread, exams, this, whereas learning, I think that's a much more powerful and gentle word. What's your thoughts on that?
I think if we use the word learning, we get more and better attendance at school and college because it's got a better sense. It's got a better sense of well-being. When you're learning, it's great. Education, oh no, that's school, that's college, that's that's got red tape involved. Whereas
Mm.
lifelong learning, because education isn't just for young people. Many people revisit college, university in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s because they want to carry on learning because they realize they haven't got all the skills that they wanted and they've got things that they're more interested in as they've got older that they weren't particularly interested in the 20s. So I think the idea of lifelong learning sells the education idea much better to people. I think if I did an experiment with my students tomorrow, I said, you're coming in for learning, not education, not to pass an exam, I think I'd get more people turn up.
Yeah,
Right, it's very
learning.
concept.
And I know well, as you know, I started off at your college, albeit a different name then, many moons ago, and went through the system and the HND and the teaching degree, the master's degree, blah blah blah, and then exited it. For me, as I look back, it was the process. It wasn't the qualification that really mattered. Of course, I didn't know or believe that at the time. I was so focused on, where I was in the journey. But as I look back, the social skills it gave me, the confidence, particularly as a mature student working with, these bright young people, 22, 23 year olds that were at uni for the first time. They'd just got their A levels, and their minds were so sharp and agile. And I really felt like an imposter in my first year of my degree. So to sort of come through that, as I say, the confidence that he gave me was immeasurable. That was learning, not education.
I can totally agree with you. I've been back to university in my 20s and my late 30s, and the whole experience was about learning. It wasn't education, it was more enjoyable because it was delivered to me in a, you're not here to pass an exam, you're here to learn all about the subject. You're here to learn how to teach maths, how to solve problems, how to help other people solve problems, how to discuss with a student when they have a problem with a question you've put on the board, how you can break that down into smaller chunks so that they can understand parts, if not all, of the question. I found, going back to university in my 20s and then again in my 30s, an absolutely brilliant experience because of being there with 18, 19, 20-year-olds who had a different outlook on the whole learning experience. For some, it was a chore, a bit like it was for myself when I was 18, 19, 20. But for all the older people of my age in the 30s, 40s who went back, they were all loving it. They were all loving the opportunity. I think education has to provide opportunity, and you get that opportunity through learning new skills, whether it's
So,
adding to your existing skills. Sorry.
what would you say then? Would you say that generally, and I don't want to compromise your sort of thoughts or views in any way, but and I'm talking very generally and not you specifically or the system specifically, but are we really preparing young people to tick boxes and pass exams so they've got a piece of paper to show to a prospective employer? Or are we really setting them up, as as we've kind of talked about, for a deeper aspect here, a more socially uh, a more social angle where they're integrated into society more because they've got that confidence.
I think for me, we've got students who are more academic, and then we've got the students who are perhaps more sporty, more outgoing, more sociable. And I think we've not just got to look at the academics. I think for years and years and years in this country, if you didn't go to university, you were classed as a certain type of person. Whereas nowadays, we've got people who are innovative, who are YouTubers, who are creative, who are making computer games, who are so far advanced in their mathematics, not not to pass an exam, but to create something that you or I would just think, wow. And I think we've started in the last 20 years to embrace the fact that we're all different and we've all got different and unique sets of skills. And I think universities and the old polytechnics, which are now universities, are embracing that we're all different and we all live slightly differently to each other. And what upsets Paul Lowe doesn't upset Paul Kelly, unless it's Nottingham Forest. Um, we can't we can't all learn Russian. We can't all learn French. Some of us are good at maths. Some of us are better at English. Some of us are good at art. Me, I'm still stuck on my stick man when it comes to art. But I think now education has become more for all. And I think it started first where we got sport was for all. When I was at school, it was all about being the best. And education was about that. It was about finishing top of the class. If you're in a sports team, you had to win the trophy. If you were second, oh, it's hard luck. You got to the final, but everybody remembers the winners. And that was a society that I got brought up in. But as I got to my 20s, I was speaking to PE teachers, and it was about inclusivity. Fred Bloggs might not be good at football, but we want him to enjoy the experience. So we want him to put his kit on and have a go, rather than if he gets his PE kit every week and never participates. So I think sport started the wheel off where we got inclusivity for the not so sporty, for the wheelchair users. We had the Paralympics, which all of a sudden became a phenomenal event. It became on a par with the Olympics, whereas previously it was you're either the best or you're second rate. And I think gradually that's got into education, and not so much everybody gets a prize as in they did in sport, but everybody gets an opportunity to learn at their own speed. And I think it's become much better. I don't think it's as elite as it was. I think the fact that we've got people making millions from YouTube has proved to people that getting 10 GCSEs and 4 A levels isn't all it made out to be. It's good for some, but it's not. It doesn't fit one hat doesn't fit all sizes.
So you've kind of answered or laid a nice foundation or segue there to one of the questions I wanted to ask you as an educationalist. How do we help people discover who they are through education?
I think we have to offer them as many different experiences as possible. Ultimately, I'm a maths teacher. If you'd have asked me 30 years ago, would I be a maths teacher? I'd have said, you're off your rocker. But the journey led me to become a maths teacher. And I think everybody's got a journey. It's about putting them on the first step, the first rung of the ladder to where they want to get to. And I think we have to offer everybody as many different opportunities so that they can find themselves, what they want to be. You don't know what you want to be until you've experienced things that you don't want to be. I was fortunate. I coached cricket, and that kind of guided me towards teaching because I was already working with young people. So I'd already got an insight into the ups and the downs of working with young people, that they can disappoint, that they can get upset, that they don't listen. So I'd kind of got one foot in the door anyway. But I think we've got to show people you might want to be a car mechanic. You might think, well, I don't like getting my hands dirty. But until you actually have a go, you don't actually know that.
Mm.
Painting and decorating. Some people, as soon as they get a paintbrush, they're like a duck to water. Me, struggled all day long. Same with anything to do with my hands. I'm useless other than catching a cricket ball. But we're all different. It's about finding what makes people tick, how person A learns, how person B learns. Do they learn by doing with their hands? Do they learn by listening? Do they learn by watching a video? I think there's been so much work done about how people learn that people are getting better opportunities. They're getting new
So
experiences.
a more generic question then. What do you feel within your kind of capacity? I mean, obviously, you've come across hundreds, if not thousands, of students in your time. So what qualities matter most in today's ever-changing world? And I think you've kind of touched upon this, but I don't know if there's a kind of an opportunity to go a bit more specific. I'm really interested in I don't know how to phrase it, but what makes young people tick? And there isn't a one size fits all answer, is there? And I think that's what oftentimes the system looks for, doesn't it? It looks for this box, this umbrella statement. Let's put them all under. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That's my perception.
I think for me, having worked with 10,000, maybe more young people over the last 20, 25 years, I've found that the greatest skill you can have is to be empathetic and to listen, because young people want to be heard. They're sat at the back of the classroom and they're listening to you when little Johnny's world could be falling apart and he might have an outburst, and how you react to his outburst may determine whether little Johnny ever comes back to your class again. Now, for me, the first thing I always say to someone if they have an outburst, you're not in trouble. Put them at ease and then listen to what they've got to say. If it's something that I can help them with, I will do. But generally speaking, at the college, we have well-being mentors, and it's their job when they're in college to sit and listen to whoever about what problems they've got and then signpost them, if need be, to a referral to get help. And I think for me, the greatest skill I got was having that ability not to react, but to listen. I think every time I say to somebody, you're not in trouble, you can almost see the relief on their face that they're not going to have a go at me. They're not going to tell me off. They're going to listen to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the skills that I've learned from you being my mentor, that listening is the most vital skill in the world. And I think that journey that we had helped me tremendously overcome several barriers that led me to become a better person and a better listener and a better teacher.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. The check is in the post. I've got a big question I want to finish off on, Paul, but I'm going to park that for a moment. You alluded just before we came on air that you'd got some facts and stats around this word education. Do you want to just sort of briefly share what they are?
Well, for, for me, what the government classes as education is the national curriculum, key stages one to through to key stages five.
Mm.
But if you look at what happens, generally everybody enters at key stage one, and some of them finish at key stage three, and key stage four, and key stage five. So it doesn't work for everybody. We've got 20% in Nottinghamshire, 16 to 18-year-olds who are not in education or training. So they've got off the bus at key stage four, they haven't gone to college, they haven't got a job, and they are the people who I'd like to work with in another world, because they're the people who I think the system has let down. They haven't been given the opportunity to find out what they're good at. They've just been told, you're not very good. You've not got any GCSEs. You haven't got enough to go to college. Nobody wants you. You're not going to get a job. You haven't got any qualifications. And this has been ongoing. It's on the rise. The last 5 years, it's gone up nearly 2% every year. We're getting more people in college, but there's more people of school leaving age.
Mm.
So the fact we're getting more students isn't a true reflection of the whole outcome, because there's more and more people not doing anything.
Mm.
And for me, some of these people will be lucky and they'll go to college in their 20s and they'll find what they need to do. But some of them will just drift down a path of maybe crime, maybe lots of disappointment and hurt, because they haven't been given the skills that they need to survive in life, whether it's working and social skills with relationships. And it's not their fault, because the national curriculum is meant to be designed for all, but clearly it doesn't work for all.
And I think you've raised a very, very significant point there. I mean, when I got back on the educational ladder, I was 31 years of age, but I was too busy surviving, inverted commas, in the real world. Um, with everything that went with that, all the challenges. We won't go into that now. It's not the time or place. But there did come that time in 31, at the age of 31, when I did that foundation year and went on that 11-year journey. So it's not a kind of, I think this lifelong learning is never or invariably not a nice straight linear line, is it? It's being aware of that opportunity. It's a bit like getting on and off a bus. So long as you keep covering ground and getting closer to your destination, you might have to get off the bus because, to use yet again the cliche, life gets in the way, and that's fine. But we put so much pressure on ourselves and expectation from the system, isn't there?
I think every now and then, Nottingham Trent University or Nottingham University will advertise a course that's free, where you don't need any qualifications to get on the course. You just need to turn up, have an interview. And I think those sort of things, they do attract people who've probably got lots of skills, but they haven't got a fancy piece of paper. But they
Mm.
do it. It may be a research project that somebody who's not actually running the course is actually observing what happens to these people in the future. I
Yeah.
went on a course at Nottingham Trent, which was certificate in communication and resource management, but it was all about using the computers. The people who'd been on the course the year before, they were just all in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. None of them got a job, and they created Multimap. And the 20 people on that course, they were able to sell what they'd made for millions. And
Wow.
that just showed me that never underestimate what a small group of individuals can do when they're given some opportunity.
Reverberations of Margaret Mead there, PK.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I nearly quoted it verbatim and I slightly just altered it.
Yeah, well, you're better than me because I can't remember it. But as soon as you
Uh,
said it, it's like, oh, I know the origin of that, or I think I
yeah.
do. Okay, so as we start to come towards the end of this, I want to ask you this question, PK, because I feel in many respects, rightly or wrongly, that this is, I spoke earlier on about an umbrella scenario, and I think that this question is an umbrella, and yes, it's directed at you personally. What would you wish for every young person to understand before they left education?
It's not the be all and end all of life that you should encounter plenty more opportunities to find your calling. I would say most people will not find their calling until their 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s. Some will be fortunate and they'll go on that linear path and they'll leave university and they'll get the job and then they'll become manager and then they'll become CEO. But that's probably 1% of people, if that. I think just be aware and look for opportunities, because sooner or later, if you keep looking, the right opportunity will come to you.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Food for thought. Any final thoughts?
I think learning should be about opportunities, not about passing exams.
And
If I
this,
was going to write a national curriculum, it would probably be for the people who want to tick boxes and get certificates. That's your path. For the rest of you, this is what we do. It may involve some national service. It may involve some kind of Duke of Edinburgh. If rather than we've got this gap, this 20% of 16 to 18-year-olds who are not doing anything, there's got to be something, somebody giving them an opportunity to do something that's going to help them in the future.
a good
There was
place
the
to
scheme, wasn't there?
A good place to leave it, Paul. Very good place to leave it. Thanks as ever for all your insights, sharing your experience, because I think it's fair to say you've got a fair amount of that and you do know what you're talking about. So we'll leave it there for people to make up their own mind around this weird and wonderful word called education.